Aces and Ashes. Chapter 3. An Unlikely Connection. The Las Vegas sun, usually a relentless tyrant, was softening its assault as late afternoon bled into a bruised twilight. For Ethan Blackwood, the shift in light offered a brief reprieve from the glare of his personal failures. He stood amidst the rusting skeletons of forgotten dreams, the desolate, pre-museum expanse of the Neon Boneyard, a graveyard for the city's discarded signs. This was not the manicured, curated display it would one day become. Here, fractured neon tubes lay like spilled viscera, twisted metal warped into grotesque, abstract sculptures by decades of sun and wind. Iconic marquees, once ablaze with the promise of endless possibility, now leaned precariously, their paint peeling like sunburnt skin, whispering tales of bygone eras. Ethan was driven here by a relentless, almost maddening impulse. The antique brass key, now a constant, almost sentient presence in his pocket, had become more than just a prop. Its peculiar warmth persisted, and the faint, rhythmic pulse had intensified, a steady thrum against his thigh that felt less like a mechanical vibration and more like a low-frequency heartbeat. More unsettling were the whispers. They hadn't ceased since the lightbulb incident. Faint at first, they had grown into a persistent murmur at the edge of his hearing, like a radio station tuned between frequencies, just beyond comprehension. He'd tried to rationalize them: stress, fatigue, lingering effects of the rum. But the rational explanations were crumbling under the weight of the inexplicable. His research had been rudimentary, limited to dusty internet forums and forgotten library archives. He'd searched for desert bloom symbols, antique Las Vegas keys, hidden meanings in old casino architecture. The Boneyard, a forgotten reference in a niche forum about the true history of the Strip, was mentioned as a repository not just of signs, but of the city's lost narratives, its forgotten symbols. A long shot, but the key seemed to hum with a clearer, more insistent rhythm the closer he got. He wandered through the decaying giants, a lone figure dwarfed by the fallen titans of neon. A towering cowboy, half buried in sand, stared blankly at the darkening sky. A gigantic martini glass lay shattered, its promise of indulgence long evaporated. Each relic felt like a piece of a larger, broken puzzle. Then he saw it, or rather, felt it. The key in his pocket grew intensely warm, the whispers rising to a barely discernible hum. He pulled it out, clutching it in his palm. The blooming desert flower etched into its head seemed to almost vibrate, pointing, subtly, towards a cluster of smaller, more obscure signs tucked away in a shadowed corner. He moved towards them, his eyes scanning. These weren't grand casino names, but smaller, more esoteric symbols. A stylized Ouroboros, a crescent moon entwined with a star, and then, unmistakable, painted on the faded enamel of what looked like an old, defunct saloon sign, a stylized desert flower, almost identical to the one on his key. Before he could process the synchronicity, a voice cut through the stillness, sharp and cautious. Looking for something specific, or just admiring the urban decay? Ethan turned, startled. Standing barely 20 feet away, partially obscured by the skeletal remains of a giant marquee, was MJ Juarez. She wore practical work clothes, dusty and smudged, a large, well-worn satchel slung over her shoulder, and her usually composed face was etched with a mix of suspicion and a weariness that mirrored his own. She recognized him instantly, the down-on-his-luck magician from the Mirage Room. MJ had come to the Boneyard with a similar, yet distinctly different, purpose. After her sleepless night poring over the anomalous blueprints, she'd felt an undeniable pull to find more context, more visual evidence, of the Desert Bloom Project, and its peculiar symbols. Her architectural mind demanded empirical data, something tangible to ground the impossible schematics she'd found. She'd exhausted the usual public archives, finding nothing on the Desert Bloom Project itself, only vague references to secretive land deals and consortiums in early Vegas history. The Boneyard, as an informal repository of forgotten visual histories, was her next, more speculative, stop. She was looking for the unique key symbol, the stylized desert flower, anything that might link the blueprint to a physical manifestation. And there he was, the magician, holding a key. A key that, even from this distance, she could tell bore the unmistakable mark of the desert flower symbol. Ethan, ever the showman, recovered first, offering a strained, apologetic smile. Just an interest in artifacts, ma'am. They hold stories, don't they? He instinctively tightened his grip on the key, tucking it partially out of sight. MJ's gaze, however, was unwavering, sharp and analytical. Some stories are better left buried. Her eyes flicked from his face to the hand clenching the key, then to the faded saloon sign behind him, its desert flower motif a stark echo of the one in his grasp. The connection was immediate, chilling. You work at the Oasis Palace, don't you? The cleaner, Ethan ventured, a flicker of recognition in his blue eyes. He remembered her, a quiet, efficient presence, always in the background, almost invisible. And you're the magician who makes things disappear, MJ retorted, her voice flat, devoid of humor. Anything interesting disappear from your act lately? Like, say, a building's entire substructure? Ethan's smile vanished, his jaw tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. MJ pulled a folded, high-resolution photo from her satchel. It was a close-up of a section of the ancient blueprint, highlighting the distinctive desert flower key symbol. She held it out, her eyes challenging him. This symbol, you wouldn't happen to have a key with this on it, would you? Ethan stared at the photo, then at the key in his hand, then back at her face. The air crackled with a silent tension. His initial suspicion gave way to a dawning, incredulous realization. His mind raced, connecting the whispers, the unusual phenomena, the key's magnetic pull, with her discovery. Where did you get this? He finally asked, his voice low, a tremor of genuine awe replacing his practiced calm. Hidden passage. Beneath the Sands ballroom, MJ supplied, her voice still wary, but her eyes now held a spark of shared astonishment. It's a map of an entire network, the Desert Bloom Project. Ethan slowly opened his hand, revealing the key fully. The intricate desert flower. MJ's eyes widened, her guarded posture softening, replaced by a surge of disbelief and excitement. Impossible, she breathed. I've been having experiences, Ethan confessed, the words tumbling out, relieved to finally vocalize the strangeness. The key hums, whispers. The light went out last night, and it moved on its own. It led me here, to that sign. He gestured to the faded saloon emblem, mirroring the key's design. MJ looked from his key to the sign, then back to her photo. My grandfather had a key like this. Said it was a family secret. And these blueprints, they're like nothing I've ever seen. Ancient, detailed, they show a whole hidden city beneath the Oasis Palace. A project that's been secret for decades. The pieces clicked into place with an audible snap in Ethan's mind. His individual oddities, her impossible discovery, they weren't random. They were connected. An unlikely alliance, forged in a junkyard of broken signs, was born from a shared, startling truth. Just as the last sliver of sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the boneyard into a deeper gloom, MJ's gaze, ever observant, snagged on something out of place. A black SUV, parked a little too far down the road, its windows tinted, its engine idling silently. And then, the faint, almost imperceptible glint of a lens, high up, from the roof of a dilapidated, two-story building on the perimeter. Her blood ran cold. We're not alone, she murmured, her voice tight, grabbing Ethan's arm. Her architectural knowledge of urban layouts, honed by years of studying sightlines and access points, instantly recognized the surveillance. SUV there, lens on the building. They've been watching us. Ethan, the magician, instinctively looked for the subtle giveaway. The man walking a dog, too casually, too slowly, along the fence line, his hand cupped to his ear, an almost invisible wire leading to an earpiece. Thorne's security, he realized, the cold, clinical eyes on the screens from last night's broadcast. Thorne, Ethan breathed, a new layer of danger settling over them. They're already on to us. Follow me, MJ commanded, her fear quickly morphing into decisive action. Her experience navigating the unseen passages of the Oasis Palace made her instantly aware of escape routes. There's an old service road behind these signs. Leads to a break in the fence. Don't look back. Without a second thought, Ethan followed, his magician's instincts for misdirection kicking in. He tossed a handful of gravel towards the distant SUV, creating a brief, distracting clatter, before plunging into the labyrinth of leaning signs and discarded neon. MJ, nimble and quick, led the way, weaving through the twisted metal, using the decaying behemoths as cover. They scrambled through a gap in a rusted chain-link fence, emerging onto a deserted street, the city lights shimmering in the distance. The SUV, its engine now roaring to life, swung around, but they were already gone, swallowed by the urban night, leaving behind only dust and the fading whispers of forgotten history. Their separate investigations had converged, forming an fragile, vital link against a looming, unseen threat. The true game had begun.